And we're live. Hello and welcome to another episode of Matty Allen Live with special guest Crypto 7. Welcome.
Hello and welcome to Matty's show. How are we doing, everyone?
Man, it's been a tough road in PulseChain, but I think we got a bright future ahead of us. And so I'd encourage everybody who's watching this to hit the like and subscribe button. Subscribe to Crypto 7 as well, and share this out because this could be some important stuff.
Yes. And if you're coming over from Crypto 7, do make sure to spank that bell button for Matty because he's streaming live from a beautiful balcony in, am I allowed to say where you are?
Yes.
In Austin, Texas. Look at that.
Right.
Look at that. That's fantastic. That's inspirational. Is it a penthouse? It looks like a penthouse.
It's just like I was telling you off screen, like my buddy's place that he moved out of before the lease was up, so I got a cool spot to stream from.
What a nice buddy. That's a cool buddy you got there as well.
So,
what a great day to streaming because everything's pumping, baby.
Oh yeah. And I guess there's been a lot of macro news that has been taking the markets up and down, but I was looking at the Fed percentages that they'll cut, basically like the chances that they'll cut. It's called like the CME Fed Watch.
Nice.
And that's like
I've heard of that.
That's where all the experts go to look and see what the odds are of a rate cut, which is what we need to go to new all-time highs in crypto and in the stock market. And so basically next month, or I guess in June, that's when it's looking really good.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's May, and it's even possible that they do an emergency rate cut. That's not off the cards. So it's looking really, really good. So I think though, and also we had the CPI numbers came in really good, as you say. Going to your point, Matty, I think we got down. We came within another 50% of the gap between the target for what Powell was saying he would reduce the rates on has reduced by another 50%. Not that necessarily he even needs to wait for 2%, because obviously if the economic indicators suggest that he needs to reduce more, then he will. So I totally agree with you. I think that a rate cut is very, very likely. You're also saying it's been a tough process. The way I've been talking about it on Crypto 7 the last few days is that we are at the edge of the forest. We're not out of the woods yet, but I can see the sunshine. I can see Austin, Texas in the background, and the other side of the forest, I can see Monaco, I can see the Green Valleys. And I think that for sure, there's been quite a few things that have been very encouraging in the last few days, but today's been another superb day. And I listed 10 things to be bullish about if people are interested. I'm sure they are. So strap in for
that sounds great.
Strap in for 10 things to be bullish about. Well, you stole my number one, which was the CPI is making rates more likely and earlier. So the CPI numbers were fantastic yesterday, and I think the markets were expecting 2.8 and we got 2.4. And Powell's, in a perfect world, he's waiting for 2%. But as I say, there's lots of things which will prompt. So I think we're going to be looking at a rate cut. Personally, I think by May, and it could even be sooner. The tariff threats are evaporating fast now. What's really, really interesting today, everyone, is that China retaliated by increasing the rates again on the US. But what was fabulous and really, really interesting was that Bitcoin didn't go down as a result, but actually went up, suggesting that the tariff, suggesting that the tariff threat is no longer having any effect at all. In fact, it ended up being the opposite, because we are ultimately digital gold. Speaking of gold, gold is just absolutely going vertical. I mean, Peter Schiff must be lining up the hooker party, but the gold prices are just going like that. And of course, we are digital gold. They are analog Bitcoin, and we are digital gold, aren't we, buddy? And Number three, the dollar's going, but just as gold's going up and vertical, the dollar's looks like it's been thrown out of that fancy building that you're in. It looks like it's just going straight down. And everyone knows that subscribe to Matty's show and Crypto 7 that there's an inverse relationship between the value of the dollar and crypto. And all you need to know is that when the dollar goes down, we go up, baby. And that's all you need to know. It gets technical. Don't worry about the rest. That's all that matters. Now I'm hearing talk. I don't know if you're hearing it, Matty, but I'm hearing talk about the money printer going brr soon. Powell may be starting that process as well. And
Oh
I
yeah,
think, yeah, I think where we're
yeah.
at
It's
the
like
moment, we just need. Yeah, go on.
well, it's like in Game of Thrones when they say winter is coming, but this time it's printer is coming.
Printer's coming. I like it. I like it. Yes, yes, printer's coming. And I don't even know if we need the printer, but I think it's coming. I feel like we're now sort of on the cusp of just one more good event. The analysts say that when Bitcoin goes over 85K, people are going to start getting really bullish again. And when we go over 91K, that's when the big money goes back in. That's when we're back in a firm upward trend in crypto. Now, the good news is we're nearly at 85K now. So we're very close to when people are going to start feeling really bullish. And if you're getting into crypto now, if you're selling a spare car or something, if you're making your wife walk to work, then this is a time to be dollar cost averaging and getting into crypto. Speaking of which, I was watching a good channel that I know have been around a long time. It was Ben Armstrong's old channel, which is now called
Mm.
Discover Crypto. And those guys I've been watching, they're my favorite non-Hex and PulseChain channel. Obviously, you're my favorite Hex and PulseChain channel, but they're my favorite non-Hex and PulseChain channel. And those guys are selling their cars now to buy more crypto, which I thought was really, really interesting because, like you and I, they had an opportunity to buy in 2022. They had an opportunity to buy in 2023. It's really interesting that they're selling their cars. So if you guys are feeling nervous, I think it's reassuring that these really experienced crypto bros are actually selling cars now because they've been in a long time, like Matty and I. I mean, they've been in a very long time. Number 5 is Paul Atkins is in. That's fantastic. Doesn't it feel like forever, guys, that we've been waiting for Paul Atkins to come in? I think people
Yeah.
have probably got married and divorced in the time that it's taken Paul Atkins to come in. Number 6, we've got pro crypto regulations popping off everywhere. And what these things are going to do, if you're thinking, well, okay, Crypto 7, there's all these things. Why aren't we at 100K? Why isn't Bitcoin 200K? You know, all these things will provide the narrative when the liquidity starts coming back into the crypto markets. And it's like, oh, it's because of these regulations, or it's because of Paul Atkins, or it's because of the DOJ's been called off. That's another big one, of course, which everyone probably knows about. Another one is BlackRock bought a load of Ethereum today. BlackRock bought a load of Ethereum. I think they bought it for their personal stash. I don't think we're talking about the ETF. I mean, it matters
Oh wow.
not. But so that was today as well. Of course, particularly relevant to us guys, Richard has activated his comments, and I think that's a big deal. And
Yeah.
yes, he's coming back. He's coming back. We predicted it. We predicted it on Crypto 7. And
You
number
did. You
10,
did.
thank you. And number 10, it's now just 10. Number 10, it's 10 days. See what I did there, guys? It's 10 days till the SEC ruling. Yay!
Yeah.
I mean, I talk to Nuclear Herbs sometimes. I'm sure you do as well. I talk to Nuclear Herbs quite regularly. I think he's a really cool guy.
Agreed.
For a lawyer. I mean, no, I mean, I'm joking. But I think
Great guy.
I think he's feeling really bullish as well. So that's fantastic. You know, I mean, so there's so much to get bullish about. I mean, it really is really, really good. So I thought I'd let people know about that. It does feel like we're breaking out. As I say, we're not out of the woods until Bitcoin's over 91K, but we're progressively moving there. And of course, all these things apply for Hex and PulseChain, but we have our own tailwinds as well, some of which we've just talked about. But I've probably missed things. I mean, how are you feeling generally? I mean, that's just how I would describe it. We're at the edge of the forest. We're not out of the woods yet, but I can see the sunshine. What do you think, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, your list rocks. That is an excellent summary of everything that I've been seeing, uh, by studying Twitter all day and stuff like that. I mean, that's where the breaking news happens. If I hadn't been asleep when Trump tweeted, uh, like everybody should buy right now, and then 6 hours later, then the market pumped by like $1 trillion or something.
That was incredible, wasn't it?
So that's never happened in history before.
That was
Um,
incredible. That's a really good point.
I'm very bullish on the Trump administration, in terms of their plan to get basically to get the world trading more fairly, and to make sure that the dollar doesn't get replaced as a reserve currency. I saw an analysis today that said that, um, somebody's predicting that basically the U.S. is going to team up with every other country in the world except for China. That might be the next step in order to remove tariffs with the rest of the world, and then team up on China, and then everybody gets a better deal from China. So that'd be a good thing.
And then America saves us again, like they did in World War II. Not that I'm old enough to remember that. Going to this point, because it's a very good one you make, Matty, about how Trump tweeted about, he said it's time to buy, didn't he? He said something like it's time to buy, and then 3 hours
Right.
later he dropped the tariffs. There was a couple of guys that one guy made $1 billion acting on that. I think he did a big leverage long, and one guy made about 600 million on that. And now what I'm hearing is everyone in TradFi, everyone in Wall Street are saying, right, I'm copy trading Trump from now on. Whenever he says something like that, I'm going all in. And what's
Yeah.
interesting, of course, is that he doesn't. He's a massive fan of crypto, and he's shilling crypto all the time. So it is mind boggling, because when you realize that there's hundreds of trillions in the stock markets, and we are so small in comparison. I think we're less than 2 trillion. So if he says something on Truth Socials about how he thinks that it's time to buy Ethereum next week, everyone's going to go in really hard. It's really kind of a bit mind blowing to even think. So I'm feeling really bullish about it, and of course it's lovely to see the core coins. I think it's lovely to see the core coins are up massively today again. And what I'm seeing is that the last couple of weeks or so, the core coins are usually green and just steady. And it's always better to see the crypto going up steadily, because it's a little bit like a couple of days ago when Trump pumped the markets, because it went up so much. As I said yesterday, don't be surprised to see us go back into the 70s, retest, and then off we go. And in fact, that's exactly what happened. We went back into the 70s, but only briefly. And now it looks like we're gearing up to go into the 90s and things. But it's better for hexagons and pulsicons if we go up 5, 6, 7% a day, rather than having a day of 20% and then a day of 10% down and a day of 5%. It's much better if we speaking of which, I'm just looking at bad PDI here. I see it's down 6% today. That's a shame. But
Tragedy.
I just it is what it is, guys. We're just reporting the news. We've got PLS here that's up 8.5%. I think. PLSX is up 5%. Inc is up 4%. Hex is up 5%, nearly 6%. Now these are cryptos which Richard supports. These are cryptos that Richard likes to talk about. And if we go over here to what I think Matty calls bad PDI, are we calling it bad PDI now or old PDI? Which are we calling it?
I call it broken PDI, but
Broken
my favorite name is PDI Classic.
PDI. I saw you using PDI Classic.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes,
because
yes.
that's
It's a
an
little bit.
Ethereum reference,
So
to
yes, I
the.
know. It's a little bit of an Ethereum reference, a little bit of a slur on Ethereum Classic. Yeah, keep I know. Ethereum Classic is still going. It's not. It's actually doing
Yeah.
okay, isn't
Hey,
it? So maybe I don't know about Ethereum Classic. I quite like. I like bad PDI. Speaking
right,
of which, I think you and I, we are the pantomime villains of the bad PDI community. I think that it's you and
right.
me. So it's brilliant that we're streaming together, because I think it's
Yeah,
like I've had people message me and say, "Crypto 7, how are you with all this hate you're getting?" And I'm like, honestly, I don't take X seriously at all. I mean,
boom.
and I think you're the same. I hope you're the same, because I've been picking up. You've been getting a little bit of the old
Yeah,
vibe.
my tolerance is at an incredible level now, for the
Mhm.
hate, and one of the things that I do is I celebrate some of the haters, uh, because that's their worst nightmare. And so there's,
Yes.
I think I got something here. I think I got a little show and tell for the audience, but this this was so good. I would say that there have been two standout memes that people have made that I really liked, and this is one of them
Go
here.
for it.
Uh,
Oh, I saw that. That's brilliant.
yeah, so
I,
they made this to hurt my feelings, but I don't know. I love it.
no. Do you know what
So
though? I think that the surviving bad PDI community. I think they kind of. I don't know. I think they kind of. I don't think it's genuine hatred towards us. I mean, all we're doing is repeating what Richard's saying. That's all I do.
oh
I mean,
man,
I'm not
oh
clever. I'm not clever enough to look at the code and things. All I'm doing is repeating
right,
what Richard says. All
well
I'm doing is repeating what his lead dev was saying just today about how it's got an exploit. I do
right,
find it
right.
funny that. Go on, buddy. Sorry.
I mean, so I got hate when I raised money to get Kareem out of a 10-plus year prison sentence. I got hate when I put myself into legal crossfire, even when I didn't have to stop a class action lawsuit against Hex in South Carolina that could have impacted the SEC case and made that go bad for us. So, like, when I do things for no profit to myself that are genuine, like, things that make the world a better place and like help out everybody's bags, I get hate for that. And so that tells me a lot about the hate that I get when people call me a scammer because I'm stopping a class action lawsuit against Hex in South Carolina. Yeah, I don't take it as seriously, just like you said. And yeah, I mean, for the people who are paying the closest attention, those are the people that I want to connect with anyway. I don't want to be the most popular person. I want to be the person who has the most intelligent followers and people who, are here for the long term.
And absolutely, buddy, absolutely. And I'm betting that when you moved quickly to follow what seemed to me anyway, because I was watching that stream that Soimi was on and yourself and Karim, and it did seem very clear. And Fast Abdul, I think, and it was a clear steer from Richard. In my, as far as I was watching it, and it was like he was picking up on the conversation, and he was talking about airdrop as you were talking about airdrop and that sort of thing.
Right.
And I bet you didn't think, oh, I'm going to get a lot of love from the existing PDI community if I do this. I mean, the moment you sort of stepped forward to do that, it was pretty obvious that you were instantly going to get a lot of hate. And I think for me, I could tell straight away that you were going to get a lot of hate because literally you were getting criticized immediately. And the criticism initially was he's moved too quick on this. I heard Soimi say, I'm not happy that Matty is immediately within 30 minutes of the tweet of the stream where Richard was coming in with comments. He's producing a solution already. It's too quick. And I thought, but when the patient's bleeding out, you don't set
Right.
up a couple of meetings. You don't set up a couple of
Right.
meetings. You look to save the patient, and that's not being dramatic about it. That we were bleeding, and so you
Yeah,
moved
5 or 10%
quickly.
a day. Pulse was going down day after day after day.
So you
Yeah.
just got to do what you got to do. Like the patient that's bleeding out, you've just got to quickly, do whatever. Well, I mean, I'm not medically trained, but you get the idea. I've watched ER, and yeah. So, um, and I'll tell you something else about while we're talking about hating things, because I know that Soimi's been saying that he's been getting hate. I do actually respect something about. I do. One thing that I really respect about Soimi is that he has a position in all this, and that's why I respect you having a position. And I think a lot of the bad PDI community respect me at least having a position. There are quite a lot of Hex and PulseChain streamers that I find it quite really weird. I watched one yesterday. I don't know any naming any names or anything, and then, I know why they do it, but and the subject of PDI came up, and this streamer was just not willing to take a position at all. He was just completely on the fence. And I think, for me, I think people want to know what you think, and I know my community do. They want to know how I feel about it, and I don't promise to get everything right. But I can tell you, all I am doing is reiterating what Richard Hart says about it having an exploit, and his lead dev, Brit Teb or whatever his name is. He's apologies for butchering his name, but you know what I mean. Brit Tep, is it? whatever. He was talking about it just today about how much has been lost in the system. And one of the things I'd say about bad PDI is it has turned out to be the worst for me. It's been the worst problem facing Hex and PulseChain because we've had trials and tribulations before, and we've had sort of vampire attacks, to call them that, if you like. You can all
Right.
think of examples, Zen and Titan X and things. But this in many ways has been more serious. And why it's been more serious is we've had the transfer of people over to it, but in addition to that, we've had a bleed factor. Now, with the Zen and with Titan X, we didn't have a bleed. We just had impatient hexagons that went
Mm,
over and tried something else. They all knew
right.
their way back, and most of them came back and will come back. So it really doesn't matter. So I don't feel concerned by Titan X or Zen because all the people that are there came from our community. And as soon as we start pumping, when Richard beats the SEC and things, they'll all come back. They know their way back. So it's not a problem. So it'll just add to the pump. In fact, ironically, it'll help us. So Zen and Titan X, ironically, will help us to get our minimum of 100x in the core coins from here. But the difference with PLI was not only did you have that, but you also had the bleed. And I think that people were okay with putting their investments into a bucket that they thought wasn't moving. But once they became aware that the bucket had a hole in it, which is PDI, then people are much more concerned about it. And so that's why we've lost a lot of people. And it seems like we have settled the ship, and a lot of that's down to you and all the people that have helped you with good PDI, or what do you call it? New PDI, good PDI. So congratulations, guys, because it seems to be working. We obviously, it's fantastic to see the core coins recovering, and I don't wish any ill on bad PDI or PDI Classic. I don't wish them any ill. I mean, in a perfect world, we'll all get rich together. But obviously, I appreciate that there's an issue if that's being promoted and money's just transferring over there, and also it's just perpetuating the bleed, really. I mean, so it's not an ideal situation. But what we're tending to see is the core coins are green, and we're tending to see bad PDI red. Occasionally we see the opposite, and that's when Soimi will show the charts and things and say, oh, look at this, we're green today. But you look at the price, it's very wrecked, isn't it, buddy?
Yeah. Well, I think what I'll say about Sami is I think that his coverage of good die, I think it's been fair. I could have seen him like ghosting it or like saying things that aren't true, but I think that like I think that he's been fair about it, and I respect that. And I've often said that like if if everybody in the world believed in crypto as much as Sami and PDI people believe in PDI, the world would be a better place. So I like the behavior of people believing in something. But if you blindly believe in something that has an exploit, or if you get into a situation like these guys, they're trapped. I mean, they can be as enthusiastic as they want about it, but they are trapped in some of them $1 million loss, and they are fighting for their bags. They're using their free speech. The only problem is this. I mean, I would almost kind of compare it to a parasite on
Yes.
PulseChain, and you're not going to get like you're not going to get the hottest date or like all the coolest people wanting to come and hang out with you if you like have a giant like space leech hanging off of your face or something, like. And so pulse chain, like, sure, it can still like go up and down, like the OA can still pump it 2000x, like all that stuff is still in the cards, but it's a question of like efficiency, and it's a question of kind of like a moral dilemma of like how much do you want to give to this extractor that's already taken 20 million 50 million off the chain, because the higher the price of pulse goes, and the more these guys hold on, the that's going to be an ongoing drain. It's not going to kill pulse chain, but it is an existential threat, and so that's basically why the good die was why that's being put into play. I think that the good die, it has this huge unlock coming, and so I don't expect the price to perform super well in the next week, but I think that gives you a chance to go much higher if you have uh, that's what we saw in Hex. We saw Hex started with 5,000 people, it dropped 90%, and then it did a 10,000x. So starting with few people is one of the reasons why maybe PulseChain hasn't taken off as much as Hex did right away, or as much as Ethereum did right away. It's because you had 120,000 people in PulseChain from the start. Well, you had 40,000 in PulseChain and 120,000 in PulseX, and so the number of people that you start with good die, that's been low, and they sacrificed a lot, like $500,000, $1 million, like depending on how you count it. There was a lot sacrificed by a few amount of people, and so yeah, I think that if you got really low prices there, and then then all the people who are stuck in their die trade, if they if a couple of them get into it and then have a bunch of green candles, how much, everybody's got a price. Like, how much do you have to see in something that's stealing your mind share? Like, how much success do you have to see before somebody jumps on it? Is it going to be, well, 88x wasn't enough already. On day one, you had that in good die. So yeah, maybe it goes down 10x or 100x from here, and then maybe it goes up way more.
Yeah, those are excellent points. I totally agree that the good PDI has been successful already in that it has stolen a lot of mind share from
Oh yeah.
from PDI Classic, and what you've got now is a situation where I've been thinking about this today because I knew I was streaming with you, and I was thinking about this today. And look, there's a difference, and I've been in crypto for 10 years, and I've seen people stray off the path to pursue what they thought was a long shot, but they were hopeful, and things like Bitcoin Cash and BSV, the one that from Craig Wright and things, and they weren't successful in things. But there's a difference between a long shot, which they were, and an impossibility. And the situation, I'll just give it to people straight now that are holding PDI Classic, is you've got an impossible situation here now, because one of the issues you've got is there's now 3 PDIs, and the one that you want people to buy is the one with the exploit, and that's not going to wash, particularly when Richard Hart's vocal about it, and his lead dev is vocal about it, and guys like Matty Orlin, who aren't concerned about the hate, are vocal about it, and people like me, and so you're not going to be able to attract big new investment, the money that's coming in right now today and the money that's going to be coming in tomorrow. You're not going to be able to attract any of that. You mentioned how they're trapped, and I totally agree with you. I think that the people that are in PDI still are trapped, and I actually very much feel for them for that. And I think a lot of the people that are still now in PDI Classic, old PDI, they came over from the meme coin period, and a lot of them were following Somi then, and they're following him now, and because of course he was pushing the memes very hard between March and October, and then memes ended abruptly in October, and I think a lot of those guys then their next attention grabbing thing was PDI Classic, which initially was doing very, very well, but we are where we are, and you have to react to the facts. But as I say, I think there's a difference between a long shot and an impossibility, and people have to accept that on every front. One of the things that I like is that Somi has started talking more now about the macro, which is very good, and he's talking about the cause more. I've seen him talking about some sort of price predictions, 100x, this sort of thing. I'm not sure if he said 100x, but I know he was doing some price predictions on the cause just yesterday, I think it was. And because he is undoubtedly a very talented streamer, a lot of people, and I play to this, as like you do a lot, I play to this, but a lot of people think that A lot of people think I'm jealous of Somi and that I'm obsessed with him, And I can tell you that there's 100 things racing through my head all the time. I only get 5 hours sleep, all sorts. Uh, there's 100 things in my head, and he's not one. And he's not one. He's definitely not one of them. In my perfect world, we will all make it to Monaco. And in my perfect world, I'd have a beer with him as well. A very close second is I you and I make it and he doesn't. It's not. So the perfect scenario for me is not I make it and he doesn't, or I want everyone to make it. I want everyone watching now to make it, and smash a like if you like the idea of that. But that's certainly where I'm coming from. But it is regrettable. It is very regrettable that he has been pushing it so hard latterly, even after we've had this very, very clear and obvious direction from Richard. And I do hope, and I am seeing evidence that he's doing that less and less. In fact, I thought he'd stopped, but I watched a bit yesterday or today, and he's still talking about it. But I mean, like you say, it's impossible. It's impossible when it's red like it is today. I think it's down 6% again today. We're up today. So, as you say, very quickly, I mean, you didn't launch Good PDI to make people rich, but if it happens to be the case that you get the green candles, in fact, it's quite interesting, isn't it, that most cryptos are launched to be successful in terms of price appreciation, but you launched Good PDI really, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think you launched Good PDI to be a distraction, to rob
Oh,
mindshare from. But there may be
well,
the unintended consequence will be that it will make people rich that got in.
here, here's the way that I think about it.
Yes.
Um, so PDI, before we knew it was being exploited, was the most successful homegrown thing on PulseChain, and it was so successful that it reached the same amount of like community engagement that Hex has today. It didn't reach as much community engagement as Hex had back when Hex was 55 cents, but PDI, because it went down so much, because then after it went down so much, it went up so much. It went up like 50,000x or something. That made it the best homegrown thing on PulseChain. And so I look at that, and then I look at the exploit, and I say, okay, well, what if we could kill two birds with one stone? What if we could take something that could have been, bigger than Hex, bigger than PulseChain, anything like that. That would be good for Hexicans if we were in on it too and everything. Like, there is a win-win situation here where we could have a cycle one unicorn narrative that brings in people from other chains. We tried the free copy of stuff, that didn't work. We tried PDI, that had an exploit. Like, but there's something there, and there's like all these ingredients that I've been identifying in PDI's success, and I think that those can be incorporated into good die. So I'll give you an example. So one of the narratives that makes PDI so successful is the fact that it's this contradiction of a stable coin that can pump. Now, everybody knows about pumps in crypto, but the cool thing about stablecoins is stablecoins are the killer app of crypto, because people around the world can have a bank account that way. And it turns out that lots of people all around the world, they like, they want the freedom of crypto without the volatility. And so um, Tether, which is the number one stablecoin issuer, they became the most profitable company in the history of the world per employee, because they run a stablecoin business. So stablecoins, it's a being a currency is like trillion and trillion and trillion. It's like an infinite value industry, right? And so the question with PDI was always, well, how could you ever like have something that pumps and then it goes to $1, and then it just stays there? And there were all these broken maker contracts, these smart contracts that aren't so smart, that that they were talking about. But we actually have, and Crypto 7 and I are both familiar with a technology on PulseChain that can create stablecoins out of something that pumps. And that is the liquid loans protocol, also known as a liquidity fork, not liquidity. They named the company Liquidity. I think it's missing an I or something. And so a liquidity fork, now we've seen that work successfully, get cloned from Ethereum to PulseChain. It doesn't have any exploits and it works today. We've seen one of those come out for PulseChain called Liquid Loans. There's one for Ink called Ink Printer. There's one for Hex, and there's one for PulseX. So what I see as possible is that someday, if good DAI is, got $20 million of liquidity and, is a super successful project, because it pumped from close to zero, to $5 or $100 or something. That would be this scenario where then somebody could start building. And I'm not promising to build anything, but I'm just saying there would be plenty of incentives for somebody to come along and to build a liquid loans like protocol so that you could use good DAI as collateral to over collateralize the creation of like a good, whatever you want to call it, a good stablecoin dollar. And then just like we have now with the liquid loans dollar and that kind of stuff, you'd be able to actually achieve what you dream of, and part of what makes PDI such a compelling narrative for some people.
Got you. That's really, really interesting. And but you know what the absolute best feature of the original PDI or bad PDI is, don't you? The absolute best,
That the OA is going to buy it.
No, not in my opinion.
Okay.
The secret source of PDI Classic, in my opinion. It'll surprise you to hear me say this, but I think the secret source of bad PDI and the reason that people don't want to let it go to pursue one of the two other PDIs or whatever else is Somi. I think that Somi is such a charismatic streamer,
right?
Such an influence to these people that so when we look at PDI and we look at the price chart of PDI, and like you say, it's gone up so many X's, it's had these 85% drops and then it goes off again. I would give Somi, and this is, you see the contradiction. People say, oh, you're just jealous of Somi, or whatever else, you're obsessed with Somi, he lives in your head rent free. I give Somi a lot of credit for that price chart. And then I think to myself, and this is a bit Matty, stay with me. Then I think to myself, well, what if we could get him talking about something called Hex? There's two of them. There's one on Ethereum, one on PulseChain. What if we could get him just putting all that energy? Because for weeks he was doing 5 streams a day, almost entirely exclusively just on bad PDI. Where would we be if we'd had that charisma, that talent? Because he's much more talented than me. He's much more charismatic than me. Where would we be if we had that directed towards the core coins and towards incentive token and PLSX, which has got nearly 7. We love the 7s on Crypto 7. Nearly 7% has been bought and burned. What if we had Somi telling us that with his lollipop? What if we had that, guys? What if we had that? Let's believe. Where's my pegs? Where's my peg? Let's all peg. What if we could get Somi? I also thought, bit of a mind experiment now. So we all know that I think through sleep deprivation, I'm not sure which bit was the sleep deprivation, but Somi sold all his PDI and then he bought back in. I don't know which one of those moves was a sleep deprivation one. Probably both, because we all know you should never do that. I've never sold an RH core coin. But I'm thinking, we all know that Somi's got big bags and we all know he's underwater massively. And like you say, he's trapped. And a lot of these guys that came over from the meme coins, they probably saw some nice numbers on their screens, but they didn't put them into their dreams because they probably didn't sell their PulseChain meme. And now it's gone down like all of them have. Now they're in PDI and they're trapped because they've not got a lot of economic energy left. I'm wondering, how much does PDI owe? We say in the UK. How much does it owe him? You know, how much
Hmm.
is he under? Let's all the hex whales. I mean, the real God whale follows me. I'm one of 52 people he follows. Why don't this could be like the like decentralized meetings. Appeal to God whale. I'm going to do an appeal to God whale. Why doesn't why don't we all get together and refund Somi so that
Right,
he's got his couple of million or whatever he's down on PDI? Because I'm telling you guys, he's worth that. If you're
right.
if you're a whale, if you're the real God whale watching now, if you're Rackham, he's worth that to you. You want to be because if we could have that talent directed behind the core coins, little bit of IP here, a little bit of unique thinking. I wanted to bring to Matty. If at any point you're getting value, make sure to subscribe to Matty. Make sure to tap the bell, or you might never see him again. You gotta tap those bells, guys.
Right.
Um, what if we could say, Somi, we know you're down 2 mil. Here's 2 mil. Now get behind good PDI, get behind the core coins. I think he is anyway, because he's treading a really difficult and dangerous tightrope at the moment because he's got to be really careful. Now, Richard's turned his comments on, as I predicted. He's got to be really careful what he says. So it's an impossible position for him now. He's got to be so careful because if he says one thing that sounds like a complete criticism of either Richard or the coins, I'm going to be on it. I'm going to be on it like a carb on it. And he has said a few things. There's been days where he's just highlighted the price of bad PDI and highlighted the calls are down, and now it's more often than not the case. But what if we could get him? And I think he's coming on board anyway. But what if we could just say, Somi, what do we owe you? Here's $1 million. Now get behind the core coins because you're worth it. Because then we're going to go to 3 zeros and a 2 for PLS and PLSX in about 2 weeks. If we could get, this is what I'm saying. I think a lot of the success of bad PDI and PDI Classic is Somi. And I listen to all the spaces and then I'll shut up. I don't want to do a career because you might choke me off. Wait, that was a joke, by the way. You meant to laugh at that point. No,
I was muted.
sorry.
um,
Yeah. Wait.
just don't strand
Please.
tens of thousands of people in Staker app, and we'll be just fine.
Yes. And I mean, yeah, that's the thing. I think that well, I've lost my thread now, but I think that I think
Sami is where all the value is coming from, and PDI and all that.
a lot of it, man. I think so. I was listening to all the spaces and I listened to all the PDI believers and things. And do you know what? The most common thing I'm hearing, everyone, and this is very telling about the influence, the significance of Somi. As I say, it's a compliment. Take it as a compliment, Somi. But I hear so many guys that are hanging on to their belief in PDI, and they're saying, "I don't believe in PDI. I believe in Somi." And I think it's a tricky one for him because I know he's got a lot of responsibility there because they're basically saying, based on the facts, I would be getting out of bad PDI now, but because Somi's in it still, I'm in it. I'm going to go down with the sinking ship, even though the captain of the Titanic didn't tell people to go down with him. He said captain of the Titanic said, "Go to the lifeboats, everyone. I'm going to go down on my own." And
Right.
also, I think it's an interesting one that what you actually find when you strip it all out is they don't believe in PDI. They believe in Somi. So when and I think it's happening now, when he just gets behind the cause, what a wonderful place we're going to be.
Well, yeah, I could see it going either way. I wish the best for Sami, and yeah, I hope that he is able to be aligned more with like coins that he owns lots of that can make him lots of money and don't have an exploit or are not at odds with the success of the chain.
Yes. Yeah, well, yeah. Well, I mean, as I say, I'd be for compensating him on whatever he's lost in.
So somebody's asking like, how would I counter Sami's arguments for PDI? But I'll make it really simple. Sami doesn't know how to read the blockchain. He doesn't know how to do chain analysis. I have a free course that anybody can take to learn how to do chain analysis in about 10 to 15 hours. And you can find that at the website pls.gallery. That's pls.gallery. And so the reason why I would argue that Somi is less credible than Richard Hart or Breteb is because, or, you know, dirty crypto here who is like showing you on chain of what the exploiter is doing. If Somi can't, like do his own research to read the blockchain, then that means that he's only going off of what other people who can do that are telling him. And so that is kind of like, that's probably the simplest way that I can put it, where
yeah. I've seen, but even he doesn't know his Salinity from his C++, his Python from his Java. He doesn't know them. He doesn't know them, gentlemen.
And maybe part of the reason why he's so good at his craft is that he is narrowly focused on creating content and being entertaining, being informing, and doing a good job at all the things he does a good job at. And so it's not to demean him or to say that he's less for not having that skill, because we certainly value him for the things that he's better at than the rest of us.
Yeah.
Right. So
exactly, that's what I'm saying. He as a salesman, he's better than any of us. But as you say, he's not technical. And at the end of the day, he says believe in something. I believe in Richard Hart. I mean, if you don't believe in Richard Hart, what are you doing here, guys? I believe in Richard Hart. He's made it very clear. And so I'm just going to put my faith in Richard Hart. And the great news is I think we're going to be absolutely fantastic. I think we're coming out of the woods, as I say, not only in the macro, but also very much for Hex and PulseChain. Now, let's change gear a little bit, buddy, because I feel like I've prattled on about Somi too much already. One of the things which I've been thinking is, if crypto doesn't go up much more, if we are going into a bear market, would we still possibly be okay in Hex on PulseChain? And I think the answer is yes, we possibly could. If Richard goes back to streaming, as I think he will, if we beat the SEC, we get really excited, I think maybe we could do a 10x in Hex and PulseChain. But I don't want to test the theory. So that's why it's fantastic to see the CPI numbers coming down. That's why it's fantastic to hear, as you say, that the money print is probably going to go brr soon. That's why it's fantastic to see all these things happening, because and Bitcoin going up now and stock markets recovering, because I don't want to test that theory, guys, but it is possible that we'll still make it even if we do see a bear market for crypto and wider stocks. But I think we're fine. I think the reality is we're probably coming out of a recession. I think we've probably been in a recession, and I think we've been in a mini Donald Trump induced bear market as opposed to a sort of cyclical bear market. I think that's kind of where I would put it on crypto. But no, it's certainly looking very good at this rate. We could be back over 100 very soon, and then everyone's going to FOMO in, and it's going to be very exciting. I've never felt more bullish. I hope that's coming over. I've never felt more bullish about Hex and PulseChain in the crypto space, and I spend every waking hour looking at the tariffs. And what's been really, really challenging with the tariffs is, I should say, first of all, in the last cycle, so 2020, 2021 were the bull market years of the last cycle, the most important person in crypto was Elon Musk. And the trick was to try and interpret his cryptic tweets, try to understand what he meant, because he was the guy that was moving the market in 2021. In 2025, the guy is undoubtedly Donald Trump. What I've been wrestling with, and I couldn't get my head around, was, are these tariff threats just a bargaining chip? Or is this the start of a new global trade order, something that's going to be to help the normal American folk that work in factories and things, and to screw over the elite? And I was concerned that it could be that latter, that it could be that these tariffs are not a temporary thing. But for me, it was very, very telling a couple of days ago when stock markets rallied so much. It was incredible. It was incredible. They went up even more than crypto. I think some stocks went up over 20% in a day, unheard of. What was fabulous was Donald Trump could not resist um, bragging about that, and he revealed he's been pretending in recent months that
Hmm.
he is not concerned about the markets, that he's much more concerned about American jobs and that sort of thing, and and he revealed a couple of days ago that the truth is that the stock markets are his mirror, and he is the vain king with the flower in his hat sort of thing. He couldn't resist staring at the mirror, and I don't know if you saw it. It was it's hilarious. He got everyone around him to say this is the most amazing day in stock markets, and you could have said it was a dead cat bounce, so it's continuing today, so clearly not. But I mean, really, when you've gone down as much as Nasdaq had, to be celebrating a bounce is a bit crazy. But so that told me everything I needed to know, that the tariffs are just a bargaining chip, that for him the stock market is the mirror. He is the vain king. He's very much like Richard Hart in that sense. The best people are super vain, and Richard Hart and Trump are amazing people, but they're both very vain. And
I
for
think I
Trump,
think they'd be really good friends if they
it
started
would,
hanging.
it would, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
So for Trump the mirror, the vanity mirror is the stock markets. Now he's revealed that he couldn't resist, he couldn't help himself because he's been pretending. Oh, it doesn't matter. The markets isn't very important to me, but clearly it is. And it's interesting just staying with that metaphor.
That's a really brilliant thing
Thank you.
that you've spotted, I think, because everybody could ask the question that you asked, but then you answered it with an observation that makes perfect sense from recent events. Yeah.
Thank you. And just closing off that bit, and then the interesting thing is, so what is Richard's mirror? And Richard's mirror is
Mhm.
he wants a 10,000x in PulseChain.
Right.
He went and had a beer with Miguel and Crypto Coffee and that lot, and Funding Jim, and he was like, why not 10,000x again? And
Right.
and so for Richard, the mirror is he has to see big gains in his core coins because that is everything to him. It's more important than his watch collection. It's more important than his girlfriend or how many Ferraris he's got. He wants those prices up. So for Donald, see, because for some of these presidents, they don't care about the market. I mean, Biden is just about acquitting criminals and whatever else. And sorry, I didn't mean to sound political there. I realized that was disrespectful. Apologies. But Biden probably didn't even know what the Apple stock and the Tesla prices were. Probably didn't care. He just happy to get his ice cream. I think, didn't he have a button? He could get an ice cream in 5 seconds or something. So, and for Trump, many of the things that Biden cared about, he doesn't care about, but you can bloody be sure he cares about the price of Apple and Nvidia and things. And
Right.
so once I knew that, I thought, okay, phew, we're all going to make it. We're all going to make it. Because, like I say, I don't want to test the theory. What would happen if stock markets don't rally now, and if crypto does go down? What does that mean for Hex and Pulse? I don't. It could be okay still, but I don't want to test the theory. But it doesn't look like we're going to have to test the theory, guys.
Well, yeah. I mean, so you just brought it full circle with talking about what Trump's mirror is and what Richard's is, and that's yeah, like a 10,000x impulse means a pulse would be $1. Uh,
Yeah, and that's right. Oh, indeed, thank you. And what's interesting, isn't it? Because a 10,000x is much more doable. Now we've had the collapse which occurred around the PDI exploit. Now that the prices have gone so low, it's equivalent to 1,000x before, because when we were around the sacrifice price and we were sort of like thinking, oh, 10,000, how could you 10,000x? Well, now it's 1,000x, and Richard won't care because the mirror just says what price did you go to the second. Those are the rules. That's just
right.
how it works for everyone. It's the same for everyone. It's like it's just how it is. You report on the all-time low to the all-time high, and whether how it occurred doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah. I'll probably take profits at 10,000x from the bottom, not waiting only for 10,000x from
Oh,
sat.
I'll be insisting you take profits. I mean, I tell people, I think one of the nice things about there's no profits to be taken at the moment, is there? But when when we do see some nice profits, I mean, I was saying that, funnily enough, even in the context of, we know that if we get good news around the SEC in the next 10 days, history tells us that we will go to around 3 zeros and 4 zeros and a 5 for PLS and PLSX, because that's what we did when we had the good news a few weeks ago. Those went to around half the SAC price before pulling back. So, I would say, what I'm saying to people is, hang on now. Well, and I was particularly saying this a couple of weeks ago when the prices were lower. I say, hang on now. Buy some PLS and PLSX now. If they are going to go to those prices, and then it's like a 2.5x, 3x, then sell some then, and take your wife out for a steak dinner. That's when to be taking a little, so maybe thinking about taking a little bit of profit, particularly if you're buying down here. You see what I'm saying? If you're say you put 10, you add to your position. That's how you make money, isn't it? Add to your position a little bit now with a $3,000. If we do see a 3x in a couple of weeks because of good news from the SEC, you could take your 3,000 back and keep the rest in or something. It's just that's the way to do it, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. That all adds up, and those are the people that did the best, with Hex, are the people who bought the 90% dips and then held, instead of just buying one time at one price and then just doing nothing. I mean, the other thing that people do in this community that I really like, that Crypto 7 does a really good job of, and I do a really good job of, is getting out there and promoting your own bags. Like, instead of insisting that we talk about, whatever you want to hear about, I would love to see more people starting their own channels and becoming as dedicated as you and I are. Now, did you want to make any comments on the Crypto 7 token?
Oh, 7G. No, it's interesting because I'm happy to do so, because one of the things, the two things that the Crypto 7 haters or the bad PDI holders, like, go at me for, say, you're obsessed with Somi, he's in your head and all that. We've covered that, haven't we, today? The other one is they like to look at the price that 7G went to and then measure from the top and say, look, you can't say anything about an exploit on PDI or what Richard and his lead dev are saying, because you launched a coin that's below sacrifice price now, and that sort of thing. Right. So whilst obviously I've got a slightly different audience, I'm happy to sort of go through the background to 7G. So 7G effectively got rugged, and how 7G got rugged was the market rugged 7G.
Right.
The market rugged 7G.
Right.
Primarily, that was the main one, because there was a reason why I was the last influencer to launch a coin. And the reason was because I figured, and from my links in the show jumping and things, I figured if I do the pre-sale over Q4, everyone has told me that Q1 is going to be amazing. January is going to be amazing. February is going to be amazing. March is going to be amazing. And I mean, everybody, Plan B, you name it. Everyone was convinced the 4-year cycle, Q1 after the halving year is always amazing. So I figured, okay, so if I ran the pre-sale in Q4 when it's quiet, and then launch into Euphoria, launch into Banana Zone, as Raoul Pal calls it, and then I mention it daily on my channel briefly and just mention it, here's the contract address. You might want to get into it while you're steaming to PulseChain. This is quite a good influencer coin. Influencer coins tend to do quite well. They did tend to do quite well. So that was the thinking, but the market rugged us completely, because not only did we not go up, but we went down, of course, and massively, and in particularly in PulseChain. So effectively the cycle rugged me. And then that was just the market realizing that maybe Trump wasn't concerned about the stock markets. Maybe he was only concerned about, jobs for Americans and more factories in America, yada, yada. So So I got rugged there. And the other way that 7G got rugged was it got rugged by, in the same way that it was by Bad PDI, because Bad PDI rugged every coin on PulseChain. But what I said in the pre-sale, and it was absolutely right, was, look, if we assume that PLS is going to, because all the liquidity was in PLS for 7G, if we assume that PLS does a 3x in Q1, which I thought was a fair assumption, then likelihood is that a leverage play, which is a coin on PulseChain, might do 3 times more than that. So it could do a 9x. So I was just saying, hypothetically, it could do a 9x. But very interestingly, I always also said, but if PLS was to go down a 3x in Q1, then you could expect those leverage plays, whereas Axis token or Mati token or 7G, to go down 9x as well, because it's a multiplier. So when PLS does well, the coins on PLS, the good ones that get shilled by the influencers or whatever, they should do even better. But when PLS goes down, all the coins will do even worse. So it's ironic that Bad PDI has caused so much harm to the coins on PulseChain. Then they turn around and say, "Oh, you can't say anything because you launched a meme
Right,
coin,
right, right,
which
right.
is now
Yeah.
down, but it's down because of Bad PDI. And it's not saying it's entirely down to Bad PDI. It's also down to the market, mostly and primarily, but no. So I thought, yeah, those are the main things I wanted to mention. So it was executed perfectly until I got rugged by Bad PDI and I got rugged by the market. The other area I got rugged, which I hadn't anticipated. So I just, the whole story, everyone understands. So because I'm quite charismatic and quite persuasive, I'm nowhere near as charismatic or good looking or persuasive as Somi, but because I'm quite charismatic, it's rumored I'm the second most charismatic PulseChain streamer. I was able to bring in 300 serious players into my pre-sale.
Wow.
300 serious players.
Respect.
And in fact, thank you. It got oversubscribed. So I was going to have a little bag of my own 7G, which I wasn't sure what I was ever going to do with, because I didn't do any influencer allocations and I wasn't going to rug my community. So I wasn't sure what I was going to do with that 7G anyway.
Mhm.
So, but anyway, because I could see the pre-sale was going to go oversubscribed, I just thought, well, I'll release my coins into the overrun. So so when we launched and there was this huge FOMO and it did a 12x on day one, I didn't have any coins. But then a couple of people in the community, I think they realize now they were wrong and things, and we're all friends again. But it was Brisology. It was Brisology. He said, Crypto7 has sold some 7G on you. And I hadn't done that. And I hadn't do that. The truth of the matter is I had no 7G to sell. So that's the history. That's the background. It was all perfect until it wasn't, until the market rugged us. And but it's an interesting
Yeah.
journey. It was an interesting experience. But
So I mean, another thing that comes into play with these types of things is going back to the mirror. When people, when they say, "Oh, like I got rugged by this token because I bought on day one when it was, you know, 10 or 20 or 100 times higher than it was a few minutes ago." Um, the, the reason that they bought is because of greed, and they bought into a game where the rules are known. There's a transparent market here, and 99.99% of tokens aren't going to be talked about the same as they are talked about when they launch in the into the future. And even like 90% of businesses fail. So like businesses take a lot of work to get started, and like that's a different category, but like more cryptos fail than businesses. And so you are buying in to a player versus player game on day one because you want to make that last double or that last 10x or whatever it is, of somebody else's money who buys after you. so that they are left with nothing. And that's what much of this casino crypto stuff is. And then in our area, um, we're and especially before Pump Tires launch, we're more interested in positive sum games, which means like holding multiple cycles, um, like having the using crypto as a way to pay for stuff that saves 3%. That's like real money that you're saving. That's a real utility of crypto. So there's all these like there's all these people, and they're blaming the person who was in many cases working for free, or they start abusing this person who's like the face of it, when they don't win on day one and steal somebody else's money, so to speak. But it's all fair trade, so it's not stealing. But like, and then they want to criticize. I mean, what if the influencer did want to get something in return for all the hate that they got? What if they did want to pay a developer to build something? Like, you'll find that the people who are complaining are simply this group of greedy people that are trying to take from others while doing no work. And the only work that they will do is to abuse the person who is really in the best, in the best position to try to build something, or to turn a negative sum game into a positive sum game. But it kills the ability to get to a positive sum game when you dishearten and verbally abuse the person that the influencer in this case. And so we've seen that with Fashion Coder, like launched a coin, traders came in, did their thing. She didn't take any money out of it, and she doesn't make content much anymore because of how badly people treated her. And so I think we really need to understand this as a group of people that are trying to build things long term, to be able to say, well, yeah, there's going to be like a lot of people, they just need to hold up a mirror, and that's who they should be angry at.
Absolutely, friend. Absolutely. And just listening to you, I don't want anyone to get the wrong idea, because I know that I know that you haven't benefited financially from good PDI. So I was just thinking, because when you're talking about the value of people and things, worth people knowing that, but I do think, and this has come up in this stream, I do think that people underestimate the contribution that people like yourself, who are full time, who do it professionally and things, going around promoting Hex and PulseChain and things. They don't they don't monetize that in any way or understand what the value of that is. And this is why I was saying earlier, we would all be better off. We would all get to our Monacos or our metaphorical Monacos a lot quicker if we all just turned around and said, what does bad PED owe you, Somi? Because we're going to give you this, because even if it was $2 million, because the value of having someone like that promoting our investments daily, instead of promoting bad PED, instead of fueling the exploit or enabling the exploiter by bringing this constant buying pressure to it, it's huge. It's huge, the value of something like that. But people think, oh, it's all got to be done for free, and nothing you should get is But no, absolutely, I think yeah, and I hadn't realized that about Fashion Coder. I hadn't realized that she hadn't sort of like monetized it at all, and it was just,
Right.
and people do, and this is why, when as soon as you launched good PDI, which is obviously very complicated, lots of tokenomics and things we don't even know about yet, things to
Right.
look forward to in the future and things, but lots of game theory, if we can use that term still.
Yep.
um, the I think that then gives people even more things they can sort of like snatch at to criticize, and and a lot of it's just people haven't done their research at all. I mean,
Right.
it's really people, but like you say, greed is a very powerful motivator. It's even more powerful than fear. We're about to go into the greed phase. I think, as you say, if people see green candles, They're gonna chase those green candles in Hex and PulseChain. We know we've got the guy with the money, which is Richard Hart, and we history tells us that when you do eventually get to altcoin season, when you do eventually get to the latter stages of the bull market, the new money coming into crypto heads for the layer ones. I get that PLSX has burnt 7%, yada yada, but people will go for the layer one. They're not going to say which of these three copy stablecoins should I get into. They're going to say which is the layer one. Oh, it's PLS. That's the one I'm going to get. And of course, that benefits everyone, and that benefits the whole ecosystem. But I hope that everyone's got a nice bag of PLS. That's what I would say, because I think you're going to be. What I predicted was that PLSX was going to catch PLS, and then as soon as it did, the pendulum would swing back the other way, and that's what we're seeing. So PLS is now pulling away from PLSX again, and I think that PLS. So if you've done well in PLSX, it's a good time to take some of those gains or relative gains and put them back into the layer one, because PLS is the daddy. And I think that the one that Richard will want to be measured on is PLS. It's Co. He's got an exchange, great, But I think the PLS for him will be the big one, and P Hex, and of course E Hex. I love E Hex as well.
Oh yeah.
Yes. I see lots of nice comments. How many people did we get watching on YouTube? Generally,
there's 90 on YouTube, and then on Twitter it's like 700, which may or may not be like accurate. I think that it's based on impressions.
So you see there, guys. You see Donald Trump's mirror is the market, Richard's mirror is the price of PLS, and Crypto 7's mirror is clearly how many people have I got in your Matty's show? Am I the most popular guest this month? It's really important to me. It's really important. I heard Fast Abdul finishing with this. I heard Fast Abdul was on a channel yesterday, and he goes, "You guys aren't like normal." This is Fast Abdul yesterday. I don't know if you saw it. It was hilarious. He goes, "You guys aren't like most streamers, because most streamers are really crazy, but you guys are like normal people." I was like, dude.
What an insult for those normal people.
Massive insult. Yeah. You guys are normal, but
Oh, there you go.
And I thought, you can't argue with it. I think you do have to be a bit mad. You do have to be a bit mad, really. Oh, here he is. Look, there he is.
Speak of the devil.
Yeah. I think he was calling us crazy.
I'll take it. Yeah, I've been called worse.
I see you've got a Hex toy. I see you've been immortalized in a Hex toy.
Oh yeah. You mean the one that I showed earlier?
Yes. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Was there another one as well?
There's another meme that somebody made, but it's not an action figure, so it's a little bit different.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. So I hope I hope that's helped people, and I don't get everything right, but I just go off what Richard and his devs say, and I think in clever people like Fast Abdul in the chat here, and and he thinks it's got an exploit, and KG from Internet Money thinks it's got an exploit. I heard KG from Internet Money call it a scam, and I thought, wow, that's strong. But fair play. And that's why I say, I mean, you got to respect the people that got a position. Whether it's Somi, he's got a position, and respect that. You, me, what I find, and I think the community should push to, is what about these people that come on and talk about PDI for 10 minutes without giving an opinion? I find that really, really lettuce-handed, weak. I think that's really weak of them, and I think that at least I respect that Somi's got a position.
So, in terms of good DAI, I think that there's a lot of unlocks happening. So brace for impact, I guess, in the price, and you can monitor, but it's got a chart of future market supply, kind of like Hex does. So you can go into the Telegram and you can see how many coins are getting unlocked a week before they hit the market. And so that's kind of an interesting mechanic that people who, if they do their homework, then they can know maybe when when the all the inflation that's ever
Yeah,
occurred,
yeah.
when that's
Like
going to
like
happen.
like
And,
like like timing your hex stakes to
right, right.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you. And tell me, when are these unlocked? When's the first unlock?
Um, so this launched on like Tuesday morning, and so the earliest that anything could get unlocked would be 7 days after that. Um, and there's instructions that are really complicated and really hard. I mean, basically, you have to learn how to program without a front end, uh, just basically running the right code on the blockchain, which is another thing that Richard Hart promotes is like, you know, avoiding middlemen, having downloadable front ends and that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, so like, so we might see that it takes people a while to unlock their coins, but at least for now, you can go to the Telegram and learn about how to track that.
I'm not going to comment on that in case I get chucked off the stream, but yeah, that's good. That's good.
Oh yeah,
But what I'm thinking is, so there's one in a few days' time, but then there's more. What's really interesting is if we do get good news, and I do think we will get good news on the SEC and things. If we start pumping hard, it, it's really interesting because it might be that good PDI has been launched because it's all about the timing, whether it's business, romance, or crypto. It's all about the timing. As I learned from
yeah.
7G, I thought I timed it perfectly. That's
Right.
why I waited till Q4 of 2024 to do the pre-sale. I thought launching into Q1 of 2025, Plan B tells me we're all going to be rich. Plan B said we'd be at 150K by March of 2025. And Plan B's always right. Well, he was wrong, and I didn't factor in bread notices and other things, and of course the PDI exploit. But no, I mean it's interesting because it you stand a good chance of doing a lot better if the markets are pumping, if the core coins are pumping. I mean, it's the new shiny thing, and it could really take off.
Yeah, yeah. I think I think it'll go down a lot first, and then yeah, then I think it could go up incredibly well. Um, I'm looking right now um, on the Block Explorer here. It says, if I'm reading this correctly, I'm doing this live, by the way. Let's see. So there's like 236 coins in the fee address, which is 1/3000th of what has been unlocked. Okay, it looks like if I'm reading this correctly, there's 708,000 good DAI tokens that are on the move. So I can't immediately see like um, without looking more closely, I can't see like which of those are coming out on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all that. But that's a good number because there's only 2 million in total. And the ones on the market right now, if we look on Dex Screener, we can see how much is in the liquidity pool there. Here's $34,000 of liquidity, and it's saying that there are only 63,000 PDI like for sale right now. So yeah, so the supply is like 10xing basically, and yeah, so um, that's part of the game. That's part of the whole idea here is like you can see into the future of when the coins are coming, so you can sell or buy accordingly, and yeah, so
Yeah, and the last sort of thing I would say on it is prior to you taking the initiative, well, you were prompted by Richard. I mean, I watched the stream. It seemed very clear to me that Richard was directing this. And I think people forget that. We need to zoom back and say, well, how has it come about that Matty's done this? He hasn't done this to try and earn a crust out of the community. It would be a very difficult way of doing it, wouldn't it? Oh, I know what
right.
I'll do. I'll do a rival for the coin that's got so much support from people. and has got Somi behind it. I'll do a rival for that. No, you didn't do that. It's so prior to you doing good PDI, what we had was a lot of people talking about old PDI, and then other people sort of wary of it. Now what we have is a lot less people talking about old PDI, a lot more people talking about good PDI, and the people that we're talking about old PDI are now criticizing good PDI. So the mind share towards good PDI has massively diminished, and that's what we're seeing in the price. So for me, it's been a success anyway. And I imagine that most people that sacrificed didn't do it because they thought they were going to make a quick buck out of it. I think they probably did it because they were. I imagine most of them were doing it because they thought, "Oh, this could be a solution to the problem we've clearly got." As Richard says, and his lead dev says, we've got a problem. We need to fix it. I've lost your camera, buddy, but I can hear you still there.
Okay, yeah, I was starting to get baked in the hot Texas sun, so I had to switch sides. Um, yeah, yeah. So yeah, like this was not something that I woke up one day and I was like, oh, this is what I want to be working on for the next like month or two. Um, but
Clearly,
it was
clearly.
like it's necessary to try to save PulseChain is to like deal with this community consensus problem and try to make a way for I mean, hopefully there's some magic path to make it so that maybe some things that people haven't seen yet happen that could really draw people away from PDI Classic because really so far there I mean there was $100,000 sold and then of PDI Classic and then converted to PulseX and sacrificed. So that was a big
Good.
step that I mean that was the biggest sacrifice that somebody did and there was $900,000 in total, and not all of that was sold PDI, but I mean we've already had a massive impact on them, uh, while basically trying to be unpopular so that you can start with a smaller group of people, just like Hex did. So the next like the next phase is surviving the unlocks, and then the next phase after that would probably be try to become popular with green candle technology. And so
Okay.
that's where the game is at.
Yeah, and of course there are other things that could happen, which are quite likely to happen. Which is, for instance, Richard streaming and saying some nice things about new PDI, maybe providing some sort of economic support to it as well. So there's an awful lot going for it, which PDI Classic has not got going for it now.
I mean
And
that was part of the narrative that made it popular is people speculating on
well,
whether
yeah,
the OA or Richard would say more nice things about it or something. And in this case, there's I told you that there's a 2 million token supply. Well, there's also 55 billion that was sent to the OA, uh, the Pulse X OA, and so that's a pretty big incentive if this becomes successful for
mm.
for the OA to really actually get behind something because it's if there's $20 million of liquidity and it's something to brag about and it's bringing people in from other chains and stuff. I mean, it ticks all the boxes that you'd ever want to tick for a founder to brag about it.
Yeah, and Richard would love the idea that the community there was an issue and the community fixed it, and he'll say, "Well,
Right.
the community fixed this." Yeah, yeah,
Decentralized. Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Yeah, no. Yeah, I could see him bragging about that. Can everyone see him bragging about that? I know I can. Matty, that's been fantastic. I'm going
Yeah.
to. It's 10 o'clock at night here now, so I haven't had my dinner. So my
Well, thank you so much for streaming with me and taking so much time and all of your excellent insights. This was a very quality stream.
it was my pleasure, buddy. Anytime, anytime.
Awesome. Well, you take care, and everybody here. I'll share Crypto Seven's channel again in the live stream chat, and so you guys can subscribe to him now. I
Thank you,
uh, I
thank you.
enjoy watching
I
his
have a
streams.
growing
He
number of
does great.
friend. We call it friendly trolls. I don't mind friendly trolls. So So I have some friendly trolls. It's quite good fun, and
Respect.
yeah, we got a few Pedi Maxis come in and just friendly troll me, and I friendly troll them back, and it's passes the time.
So great. Well, yeah, thanks again for coming on. And until next time, everyone, stake wisely and peace out.
Cheers. I love that apartment. Bye.